Welcome to the Careering Podcast, a collection of rants and reckons on all things career, hosted by author and creator of Careering 9, Melissa Davies, and her partner in crime, Kelsey Ingalls. If you're brave enough, take a seat, settle in and listen as we tackle difficult career and workplace issues. Sometimes we'll be wrong, sometimes we'll be right, but we will deliver it with confidence and a touch of colourful language, so it will at least be entertaining. Welcome back to the Careering Podcast with me, Melissa Davies, and my partner in crime, Kelsey Ingalls. Thank you for coming back to join us. Hello, Kelsey.
Hello, how are you? What's going on this week?
What's going on this week?
Don't ask me. Don't talk to me first.
I'm doing the annoying thing that kids do to their parents.
Just repeating. Stop saying everything I'm saying.
I'm not saying everything you're saying.
Yeah, no, don't do that to me. That's not a space I need to be in at this time of the day. Thank you. I asked you first.
What did you even ask me?
What's going on this week?
Oh, what's going on? As in, do you want to know my theme for the week?
Yeah.
Okay.
Guys, we're in a really good space. we're really rocking it today. You're in for a great episode, apparently.
Yeah.
So let's
switch off now if you need to.
Yeah. This is the state it is. Bear with or go away. That's probably the best way to put it.
It's because we've got tea in our teacups. That's the problem.
Yeah, there's no wine.
No wine.
And I am disappointed. But, needs must.
Needs must.
Yeah. So, you still didn't answer my question. What's going on with you this week? What's your theme of the week?
My theme of the week. I have been reflecting on, I've had a couple of evenings out this week with groups of really cool people and who are diverse and are quite forthright in saying what they think, and I realise how much I love that and how there's real power in robust discussion and sharing differences of opinions. And for some reason, as Kiwis culturally, we tend to avoid having, if someone puts an idea on the table, more often than not, we'll try and not put our idea on the table if it's counter to it. Yet actually there's real benefit in respectfully discussing all sides of a topic. And so I really enjoyed last night's catch up and Monday night's dinner where everyone around the table was able to share perspectives that were different and there was no issue. Everyone kind of leaned into, okay, well, talk to me about that. What is that like for you? And so I was like, yeah, the power of robust discussion, like it's actually super cool. And I think we should encourage it more. And if we learn to hold space when other people don't agree with us. Yeah. So that's where my head's at. What about you?
Jesus Christ.
It's only because I was out twice this week. And
I mean, that is... Yes, I agree, but I feel like we've definitely got to a place where we're back to you coming in with like big ideas and big things, and I'm just gonna come in and just be like, I have ended up on the wrong side of TikTok this week. I've ended up on the fucking misogynistic arseholes getting airtime and rant levels, and I'm just over it. I've got some real feminist rage this week, and I'm sick of it. I'm sick of all of the systemic patriarchal bullshit. Go and go suck it. I don't want to deal with it. So I probably need to have a robust discussion about it at some point, but I'm just real ragey and I don't think I'd have a constructive conversation about it this week. So that's my week.
Well, I also think we should do a whole episode where Kelsey just gets to rant about, give her feminist rants. Like, why not?
Hey, look, there's enough men that get to have podcasts where they just have misogynistic rants. Why can't I have a feminist one? Sorry, say feminine rage. Anyway, let's move this away before I say something I'm going to regret. What's our theme of, what are we talking about this week?
This week, we are talking about goals. And the reason I thought this
My goal is to be less ragey.
That's a dumb goal. I think you need to learn how to harness the power of your rage for impact.
What, so like ranting about it on a podcast is less? Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah.
No, I think you should channel that rage and create change. And I think this is one of the many vehicles in which you can do that.
If I just get to sit here and rant and rave because I'm ragey, I'm on board. I'm here for it. Great goal.
That is a good goal.
There you go. Episode done.
Yeah, I think sort of tying that together, I guess the podcast, the impact we wanted from this podcast was to enable us to talk about the things we did actually give a shit about and got a bit ranty and ragey about, and also to share some life lessons and some insights that could help other women improve their level of enjoyment at work or move forward in directions they want to go. And our first episode was on defining success. And if you haven't listened to that one, the key takeout is you define it for yourself.
Fuck the shoulds.
Yeah.
Do what you want to.
Exactly. And so I guess breaking that down a bit further, once you've decided what success looks like for you, there is an element of, well, how do I achieve that? So an element of goal setting. And so this episode was more around, goals, the role they play at work, outside of work, and just a more well-rounded conversation about goals. So I, as always, have some facts and stats around goals. No, I actually don't have facts and stats. I've got a lens on how goal setting is a really important part, interestingly, of positive psychology and child therapy. And the reason being, the neuroscience behind it is actually really significant. So I want to pull that a wee bit later. But before we get to that, before we started this topic, Cass was like, we might have different takes on this. And I thought that was really interesting, being that my theme of the week was about robust discussion. and Cass, knowing me, will be like, Melissa loves goals. So
Melissa loves her a goal.
I do. I'm not very good at sitting still. So I'm definitely an achievement and action-oriented person. Although equally balanced with being quite centered. So I don't subscribe to a rigorous goal setting process as such, but I do like having intention and a North Star. So I was keen to hear what your take was though, on goals.
I think at the moment I've got a real fatigue of the OTT growth culture. Mm-hmm. All of the 5 steps to be better this way. Here's all the business books. Here's all this stuff. Like, just this, like this COVID kind of thing that accelerated this. We all must be better people, and that we must set goals like this, and we must do this, and we must be better this way and that way. And I've just got like this real fucking fatigue of, what if I just want to be like this? What if I just want to be this? Is that okay? Because everything around me is telling me otherwise. And on the other side of that is I still believe that having a purpose is a really big part of positive mental health and really making sure that you're looking after yourself and just satisfaction in life. And so it's not a resolved opinion, but I've just got these two warring things where I'm like, how do you have a purpose and have a direction without feeling like you have to keep up and grow and change and be like this be on this journey to be this ultimate person that like the internet tells you that you should be trying to be. And so that is my unresolved points of view at the moment.
Nice. I agree with both of those things, actually. So I do agree with you. I think it's interesting. There's this hustle culture, I think, is really destructive.
Yeah.
And this constant, this hyper-connected, accelerated view of, and I think of Tim Ferriss and the 4-hour work week and the 4-hour body. It's these quick fixes, these quick things, this program of activity to move me to a new state that doesn't necessarily truly benefit. Even
on the other side of that is like this, I want to slow down and do yoga, and I need to there's this whole sort of, there's this whole vibe of like, I need to have be trying all these different things to be a better person, to be this better human being. And that real hustle culture plus that real moral, a holier than thou vibe.
Yeah.
That goals have somehow managed to get wiggled into and attached to.
Yeah, and I also wonder whether that's also a reflection of our hyper-connected social media world where we do see everyone else's highlight reel. And so the pressure to... the social norms are much more in your face now than, when you were a kid 30 years ago. When you were at home with your family, you could be dorky and wear your favourite New Kids on the Block t-shirt and no one would know. Whereas now everything is captured digitally.
Everything's there. And then there's this whole other there's this whole other part of it where everyone's trying to show the journey the whole way to get there, and that it isn't magical and it isn't beautiful, but that also feels inauthentic and a bit contrived.
Yeah.
it just all feels a bit much at the moment.
Yeah,
I'm just like, what about those people that are just like, I'm chill, I just want to be here.
Yeah, so interestingly, when you were talking, I thinking about, so goals for me aren't necessarily action oriented or big things.
Yeah, okay.
So and the example I'll give is, so at the start of this year, I went on a Vipassana silent meditation retreat, which was for me personally game changing. I absolutely loved it. And what it showed me is you do the same thing every day for 10 days. By day 4, I could handle not talking. I could handle meditating for 11 hours a day. What I couldn't handle was doing the same thing day in and day out. My resistance to routine and scheduling is off the chart, which I never fully appreciated until I was able to just really be with myself and see how much I hate that.
Yeah.
And so what I did when I came out, the goal I set myself was to have no regular commitments for 3 months. And so that wasn't a goal where I had to be anything or do anything. The goal was almost giving myself permission to try a new way of being.
Yeah.
And I cancelled all of my regular appointments and just, I was someone who had activities on, had sport.
You were like trying to get some time in your schedule was impossible unless you were months out.
Yeah, I had, I had sporting activities booked 6 days a week, catch-ups with friends, coffees, all my work projects. Like, life was pretty scheduled, and having that, and so the goal was no schedule. And so it wasn't a big thing. So when I think about goals, I think about what's the intention and the direction I want to go in, and not necessarily doing more. Sometimes the goal can be I'm doing less, but unless it was really clear in my mind, I just wanted no schedule. And so I think the hype around goals is very much tied to doing more, being more, having more, thinking more.
Yeah, and I think that's where my mindset went to when you were like, let's do an episode about goals. I was just like, I don't fucking want to.
I'm exhausted.
I'm tired.
Let's do less, not more.
And so like when I was sitting there going, and I think of goals as like fucking New Year's resolutions and, that kind of shit, or like financial goals, or, these things that like we're constantly hustling towards, and I just was just kind of like, fuck that.
Yeah, fair. And I think you're right. I think the social lens on it very much looks like that.
Yeah.
What was interesting, and I guess the reason I've always been big on goals, and it actually comes back to a quote by Lewis Carroll, which says, if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there.
And that's where I'm like, I get it from a purpose perspective. Like I know that myself when my purpose was taken away when I had my accident, my mental health was shocking. Like just having, also like dealing with some real like letting go of control issues. Yeah, like self-growth. But like it is that thing where like suddenly when you don't have a purpose, when you don't know what you're here for, for me personally, I slip into a bit of a space where I don't particularly like to be. And so I get it from that point. I think I think if we're talking widescape of goals, the goals that is hustle culture and must be bigger, must be better, must have more, must be moving fast is the one where I'm like, fuck that noise.
Yeah, it's really destructive. Yeah. I 100% agree. And I think it comes back to what we said around success is you've got to decide what it is for you. For me, I think goals are about you've got to decide what capacity you've got to apply effort in which areas, and then go for it. Because sometimes you don't have capacity, and the goal can be, I'm giving myself permission to rest for the next 6 months, and actually I want to arrive on Christmas Day feeling excited for the summer break, and that's it. That's my goal. And so what do I need to do to get there? Well, then there's some thought around what you need to let go of or do less of or more of. But I think we need to, and interestingly, I would argue this is maybe an East versus West perspective. Like we're in a Western economy talking about pandemics and recessions and inflation. So the kind of capitalistic view of things is shaping our lens of goals, whereas a goal could be as simple as I want to be really present with my nieces and nephews when I hang out with them.
Yeah.
Because I want them to know that I love them and I'm here for them.
Yeah.
It could be I want to grow wicked raspberries and strawberries this season, which I do.
Callback.
Yeah. I'm like, yeah, I need to get onto that, actually. So it doesn't always need to be, it can be more wholesome than that. It could be I want to meditate and be present with myself. So I think, but that's not what gets glorified.
No, and I think that's where you can, for me, like you doing that comes from a place of strength, right? Like being able to go, I can fight against what is being fucking shoved down our throat on a daily basis, and getting into a space where you're strong enough to go, screw that.
Yeah.
This is my pathway.
Yeah.
And especially, I do wonder sometimes whether like working in a 9-to-5 job makes it harder, because you are working on goals at work. You're working towards objectives, and like in that sense, I'm like, I get it. Like I understand it. It's tangible. I can see I've elected to be in that space and subscribe to that stuff. And then you come home and I'm just like, fuck that noise. I don't want to do it myself.
Yeah.
And so it does get like, but then you open up TikTok, you open up LinkedIn, you open up Instagram, and like you're getting all this stuff where it's like, I had this goal to go to Greece and I've saved, this is how you save this much money, or 5 life hacks to make more out of your side hustle, and I'm just like, fuck off.
Yeah, that's exhausting.
It's hard because it just gets rammed down your throat.
There's two parts that I think are worth teasing out from what you were saying, though. I think the first part is knowing yourself and where you're at and what's important to you at that point in time. And that's why I always default back to using the Wheel of Life as a really good tool, because it stops you focusing on just work.
Yeah.
And I think we linked in the show notes of episode 1, I think, the Wheel of Life.
I can't remember, but we'll link it in this one. We'll link it in
here, yeah. Because what the Wheel of Life forces you to do is go, work is one slice of the pie, but actually relationships are another, family, finances, there are other slices of the pie. And you could add more, spirituality is one. You could add more in, rest could be its own slice of the pie. What are your rest goals for the year? My problem
is like, I look at all of them and go, I need goals in all of those things.
Yeah.
And then I go, I've made too many goals and I do none of the goals. Because it comes back to that, like getting stuck in the, well, I can be better here and I can be better here and I can be better here. And it's just that like ingrained narrative in your brain that you're just like, it's not like you have to like uncondition yourself, unlearn it. And it's hard.
Yeah. And I think you're right. The media, social media, society generally in a Western society focuses on attainment of things. Yeah. And so interestingly, our brains are striving. They love it when we strive. And so what I thought was quite interesting around the positive psychology movement, Martin Seligman, who's one of kind of the pioneers in that space, talks about how goals shift our focus from problems to solutions. But then even when I read that, I was like, but we've still got to make that choice to shift from problem to solution. So if you're sitting there going, what if you were working 80 hours a week at work and you were really burnt out? You've still got to have the cognition to go, my problem is that I'm burnt out and work is ruining my life and I've got no gas in the tank to live the life on my terms. So you need to kind of identify the problem before you can then set the solution.
And you might have been able to identify the solution, identify the problem, but when you're that burnt out, the energy that it takes to get you to make an intervention measure is so much more than what it would be if you were not burnt out.
Yeah.
And so like the state that you are in also affects your ability to make that change, to make that choice.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And that's why, I think when you mentioned about New Year's resolutions, I was like, a lady I know every year on her birthday does her 365 focus, so she sets an intention rather than a tangible goal. She'll be like, this year I want to be really mindful when I'm pushing myself too far.
Yeah.
And then what she will do is, check in with herself and create some rituals and some processes around that. Other people I know wait for winter solstice or summer solstice and set intentions around then.
Or some of us go, Monday.
Yeah. What do I do this week?
This Monday.
I'm gonna survive to Friday.
Yeah.
But what was super interesting though, I guess around it's such an individual journey, right? So I think it is know yourself, know the problem, but then you do have to create a circuit breaker or find a point where you can create action. And I think what I find really interesting, I'm big on intentionality, and when I do goal setting, so I used to do quite a lot of horse riding, and when you're doing horse riding, if you're doing something that feels unfamiliar or you're doing some jumping and you're jumping to a new level, the temptation can be to almost grip the reins tighter and hold on a bit tighter, but ultimately that creates more problems. And the trick is to sort of relax your body, and with your eyesight in particular, you need to have what they call soft eyes. So you need to be making sure you're taking in the periphery and then knowing where you're heading, but be really aware of the environment around you because there's so many variables. And this lens of soft eyes is how I always look at goals. I always talk about sort of fuzzy goals, whereas I think all the stuff you read from Tony Robbins and all the business people is always about
write it down.
It's really step by step.
Write what the vision is and the impact, and then do the full action plan. And if you don't do it, you're not doing. And it's like, it's that real turning your person into a business. Yeah, it's like no. and yet, some people will thrive. Yeah. Some people will love that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm not some people. And I also wonder whether, like, we've talked about it before, is that you have a really high level of self-accountability.
Yes.
And that it's a part of your integrity. It's a part of who you are as a person.
Yes.
And I wonder whether that shapes that as well.
Yeah, it probably does.
Yeah.
But I also know the trick for me, and I think when I was reading up on this, and especially in the last few years as I've gone deeper into, you know, the real art of goal setting is actually less about setting the details and the goal itself. It's more about the vision. And I always think about, you know, I think it's Michael Jordan where he would visualize getting the hoops.
Yeah.
And then he would physically do it. But the visualization was the key to it. And so in my mind, I go, you know, I think about as a kid, you spend a lot of time as a kid imagining.
Yeah.
You know, you always imagine what it will be like when you're an adult, or if you could, you know, when you think about what, you know, ask kids what they want to be when they grow up, there's always, you know, I want to be a unicorn riding robotic scientist. You know, like there's always some kind of cool combo that it's not grounded in reality. It's just this imagining.
Yeah.
And ultimately, that's what visualization is. It's coming up with a concept that you think would feel good for you, and you kind of lean into it.
Yeah.
And in my mind, if you do that and it becomes this fuzzy goal because it's not tangible, you haven't documented it, you haven't put barriers around it, you've just gone, I want to be sitting in, you know, a beautiful kitchen that overlooks the Canterbury Plains to the snow-capped mountains, drinking beautiful coffee, knowing I've got a day ahead of me that has real impact and purpose, and that feels incredible. Like that kind of goal versus I want to have a job that pays this much money and working in this office.
And if I go and do this thing 3 times a week and I network with these people and like that, oh my God. I guess what I'm saying is I'm pro-purpose. Not anti-goals, but like anti the capitalization of goals.
Yeah, in the hustle culture.
Hustle culture.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's more connected with know who you are, see a vision, like lean into some creative imagining and come up with a vision for what you think would feel good for your life, whether that's at work, whether it's with love, whether it's with how your body moves, whether it's with, you know, some sexy new full sus mountain bike, like whatever the thing is that you're into. Pick your thing and imagine how good it will feel. And then, I do think, you know, if it's a tangible thing, what are some key milestones along the way? What are some behaviours that you're doing today that are getting in the way?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it needs to be this structured 17-page business plan of how to achieve a goal. But that's very much what's, and the clickbaity 10 steps to.
It's like this cheat code.
Yeah.
It's like, there is no cheat code.
Yeah.
Like, if you are invested in something and you love something that speaks to your purpose and speaks to what you think success is, dare I say it, you don't need the action plan.
Yeah, agreed. Just lean into the vision.
It'll just happen.
Oh, I find, so I talk about the internal GPS piece quite a lot. And, you know, when I first read The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People when I was like 19. My dad gave me the book, and it's had such an impact on me. And I think that's when I first came across goal setting. And I think about it more as having intentionality, like being really clear about what am I trying to achieve?
What direction am I heading?
Yeah, where am I heading? And the narrative I've always used when I try and explain it to other people is that internal GPS system. And the example I've always used is going on a road trip. So if you're heading away with your mates on a roadie, you don't get in the car and go,
maybe this way.
No, you just wait for them to turn up. At some stage, you've all decided that you're going.
Yeah.
And you've decided on an end point, typically.
Yeah.
And then you assign a driver and you bring some stuff and whatever. But there's this intent. You just start driving. Your GPS tells you where to turn. You don't sit there as a group and go, am I turning left here? Do I go right here? Like you say, you don't
You're
just
going to do this and then this and then this and then this. Yeah.
You trust the system. You've
or
set
like
the
when you're on a road trip with Melissa and I, and we take an extra 3 hours to get to the space that we're going to because we make you pull over and take photos.
Yeah, because the hoarfrost down in the Hakateri Valley was exceptional. Oh no, it wasn't Hakateri. It was
on the way to Wanaka. We may have taken about 2 hours longer than we were supposed to because we were taking photos.
Yeah, they were beautiful photos.
It was good.
Yeah, there was a full Instagram shoot going on. Like it was beautiful.
Trust us, it was great.
But hey, that's such a good little addition to the analogy, right? Because we set the direction. We knew we were going to Wanaka. We knew who was driving. We had the vehicle sorted. Everyone was arrived on time. But then we just trusted the process. There was no set agenda of what time we had to be there.
Yeah.
Yet we knew we'd end up there and it was going to be okay. And I think when I think about goal setting and having fuzzy, like soft eyes, fuzzy goals, is knowing that the route may change, the timing may change. But if that thing is really meaningful for me, then, and I hold that vision, then it's a lot easier to say no to things that don't align. Like if we'd spent 6 hours and weren't getting there till midnight, we probably would have said no to that because we wanted to get to the end goal. You know, like it makes it easier. It becomes your internal GPS. And, you know, I think, it gives you clarity about what is important to you.
Yeah.
Yet, and so part of me thinks without some fuzzy goals, or some direction, some things that you aspire to be or do or have, then you kind of get stuck in the day-to-day and the trivia becomes overwhelming because you've got no bigger purpose that you are connected to. So, I do think they do sit side by side.
Yeah, I suppose even with this podcast, like if you'd made me sit down and plan every episode for the first 10 episodes and exactly like the structure that needed to go into it and like if and that you wanted it to be this mess, like whatever the goals were and whatever, I would have walked.
You know what's so funny though?
I just wouldn't have been able to do it.
Do you know what makes me laugh though is the person who put the plans together was you, not me.
Yeah, but they were plans. They weren't like goals. They weren't
But that's the same thing.
No, they were plans, right?
Like
it wasn't. It was to get the thing done, but it wasn't it was to shape it it was creative rather than it being.
But I just find it funny that you were anti-goals until it came to a work thing, and then you're quite structured.
I'm structured, yeah. But it wasn't. I'm not when I think of goals, and I think again, this is unlearning this hustle culture thing. I'm like, well, we must get to this. I think I said to you at one point, we must get to 100. I'm not I don't feel that in my heart.
No, I don't either.
No, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think I'm not. I think I'm here for milestones. When we hit a certain number of downloads, we're going to get better equipment.
Yeah, when we hit 1,000 downloads, we're going to get those stand microphones, so we look real cool.
Yeah, so can you guys just hit it, even if you're not hit download, even if you're not listening,
and send it to a few friends that will hit download.
We'll just leave it on repeat. Just hit the repeat button.
Thank you.
On Spotify.
We can get good mics.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I'm open to milestones like that, but. Yeah, I just think...
But that's intentionality, right? So,
yeah, that's the fuzzy goals.
The fuzzy goals, exactly. You and I are really clear,
But if you had gone, we must have 20,000 listeners by this date and you must do everything possible to get there, I would have been like, you're on your own, buddy.
You can't make me.
Absolutely fucking not.
Yeah, you're right. But interestingly, I'm the same as you, right? So neither of us would have thrived if we'd done that.
Yeah.
We probably might be more successful if we had someone like that in our team.
Yeah.
But
that's also not the fuzzy goal intention, right? No. That's not the space that either of us, when we talked about the intention and the purpose of this.
No.
It wasn't about listenership. It was about the right listenership.
No, it was about us having a vehicle to share our rants on.
Yeah. Also, so we didn't inflict it on other people.
Yeah, and I think there's that element of that rigorous planning to achieve a goal is different to the goal.
Yeah.
And so, and I agree, I think this is where the noise has focused is more on the plan.
Yeah.
Do these 100 steps to get the...
Yeah, and I just think it reinforces the shoulds.
Yeah, and it feels overwhelming.
Yeah, 100%. Like I said, like that wheel of life stuff. If I went and made goals, I'd make goals for each of the things because I should be doing this. I should be doing this. I should be doing this.
But maybe that's a you thing. Because
maybe it is a me thing.
Because I wonder...
I think there's, like I said, there's a lot of unlearning.
Yeah.
And I also think I've been burnt by it. Like, I think I'm fatigued by it.
And the good girl culture.
Yeah. Yeah.
And being a high performer.
I think that's the other thing, right? Like, I can imagine people that have been othered or in minority spaces have had to work harder and faster and be part of that and have leaned into that and been told that they have to follow that mindset to just achieve the same.
Yeah.
Or prove that they're worth a seat at the table.
Yeah.
And so I can imagine that it perpetuates the cycle of this hustle culture and these like must go.
Yeah, it's interesting because as you were talking then, what I was kind of picking up is there's an association coming through around goals equals doing equals planning.
Yeah. And that's my mentality. So when you're talking fuzzy goals, I understand it. Like I'm like I said, pro purpose.
Yeah, which is ultimately in my mind is like setting the GPS in the car. Like we're heading to this street in Motueka, let's go.
Yeah.
And then we just trust the journey.
Yeah.
And then on the way we might stop for petrol and get food and be like, no, fuck this, we're going to Kokoda instead. You know, like you've got moments along the way, whereas I think the traditional goal setting with the plan would be these are the 4,000 turns you will take and at no point will you deviate from this. Which that's just too rigid. I don't think that works.
Know what? Like the more we talk about it, the more I'm like, maybe my whole mindset around goals is because of weight loss and diet culture.
Oh my God, yes.
And how much that has influenced impact and action, and you take these actions.
And you measure every week.
You measure everything.
And you are accountable and you track every meal.
Oh, guys, this is like therapy. I think I've had a breakthrough. And I think that's probably what has influenced my view of growing up in that culture.
Oh my God, that makes so much sense because diet culture is all about constricted,
I think
managed.
Goals, I think going to the gym, like choosing what you eat, like managing, like measuring, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it's all about control.
That's what I associate goals with.
It's so restrictive.
Yeah.
We need to have a whole episode on how destructive diet culture is.
Yes, we definitely do.
But you're so right. All of that is plan. It's all about control.
Yeah.
It's all about control.
And that's why I'm like, don't fucking tell me what to do. So no wonder I'm anti-goal.
Yeah. If you'd said to me, let's talk about goals and Weight Watchers, I'm like, I can talk to you about that. I can tell you how many points are in a slice of bread.
Yeah.
You know, it's weird how those things
stick with you.
Yeah. They really do. And but the first thing, you know what? Because the first thing you do at any of those weight loss environments, any diet environments, you set your goal weight.
Yeah. Yeah, and there you go. That'll be why my association with that is that. So when you talk about fuzzy goals and you talk about direction and vision and purpose, I'm like, yes, I'm on board with that 100%.
Yeah, because that's how you behave at work.
Yeah, but if you give me anything that is restrictive and controlling, fuck you and your goals.
I'm not standing on the scales once a week in front of a room full of people and crying because I never lost weight.
Yeah,
that was my journey.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, and so... No, I think we've got the same mentality.
Yeah.
I've just had to unpick what goals mean.
That's so interesting and so powerful because you're so right. In diet culture, first thing, goal weight.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then what is your diet plan?
Yeah. And
have you tracked it?
Yeah.
Did you weigh everything?
Yeah.
Have you weighed in this week?
And you failed in your goal because you haven't followed your plan.
Yeah. Or you did follow your plan, you didn't lose weight, but God forbid you're a hormonal woman with a human body that will change depending on your water levels.
Different DNA.
Yeah.
Just straight up. Yeah.
Yeah. But there was a real culture of feeling like you failed if you followed a plan and didn't lose weight.
Yeah.
And so that tying of achievement and good or bad to a restricted, controlling goal process. Yeah.
That's
my God.
Like, absolutely not.
I agree with you. That's fucking toxic. That's destructive.
Thank you for coming along on this therapy journey and Kelsey unpacking what goals mean to her. But other than that, outside of that, I'm on board. I'm totally on board.
Yeah, because arguably, like, none of the good shit happens if you don't set a goal. Like, it's very rare that someone will come to you and be like, hey, you've got $5,000 in your bank. Should we go on holiday? Like, at some point you go, I'm going to go on holiday.
Yeah.
I'm going to save money for it. This is how much I need. You know, like we do set goals all the time, but we probably don't think of them that way.
Yeah.
Or at times we go...
We set intentions.
Rather than these restricted plans.
Yeah.
So what was super interesting for me too is, so the goals, when we do set goals, fuzzy goals, intentions, they become like an internal GPS, like we said before. It helps you say yes or no to things that don't align. And there's actually a dopamine hit as we get close to achieving them.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it builds as you get closer to achievement.
Interesting.
You know, it's almost like that anticipation of...
Does it spike when you achieve?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's almost like this little hockey stick curve towards the end of when it's happening. If you can feel like there's momentum. And so that's why I think milestones are really important, because if you wait till the finish line, so, you know, if the goal was be really calm when you're with family, I would be like, okay, let's reverse engineer that. What are some of the things I could do to prep for that? Okay, I can make sure I do a meditation and some exercise when I spend time with them. I can set some boundaries, you know, like there's some stuff that I can do that would become steps. Yeah, that would be some steps towards that goal. If I wait until those family moments happen and only celebrate in those moments, I'm missing out on all the rewards along the way and those dopamine hits along the way, where I go, actually, for 4 weeks now, I've done a regular meditation practice every morning. You know, like that's why I think, you know, if we know that achievement triggers dopamine for us, then how do we find critical milestones along the way to celebrate those moments too? Yeah. Because also it means we might decide to change our path and we never get the reward.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's where a lot of businesses like fail to keep staff engaged, is because they don't put those orange markers, like we talked about in that first episode, in place. And because technically, like when you achieve something, most of the time nothing changes.
Yeah.
Like most of the time you tick a box in your head and goes, well, I've achieved that now.
Yes.
But outwardly, not much changes. Yeah. Like if you're thinking about running a running race, you're still in the same general area. You've just crossed a weird line that they've drawn on the ground. You know, nothing has really changed.
Yeah.
And so if you're not setting celebratory moments or setting spaces along that pathway, you kind of get to the end, and that's where you're just like, okay, well, now what?
Yeah, totally. And that's what I'm doing my PhD on. The now what, so what, the post-achievement.
Yeah.
Because we are striving animals, and and we don't allow a humanist to come into it and us to change our minds or life to change us. And I think...
Yeah, and if we change our minds or change our goals, there's a part of that hustle culture is, well, that's a failure.
Yeah.
You've started a new goal.
Yeah.
Because you haven't followed that, like... The fact that you've changed direction is a failure. Yeah.
And I think if we, you know, coming back to that thing around the wheel of life and setting goals in each of those areas, if we set goals that were more about how we are, so being goals rather than doing goals or having goals, that can be a softer way of setting goals too.
Well, that's what Mark Manson talks about, right? Like when you have intrinsic value-based purpose, like... to live your life a certain way, or to collect stories, or to do whatever, rather than I'm going to buy a house, I'm going to buy a car, I'm going to buy a thing. Like when you've got internal versus external purpose, the science says that you are happier. You are more likely to be a successful, happier person, because there's not actually an end place.
Yeah, and you're living your values.
Yeah.
Which ultimately...
But there's not a finish line.
There's no finish line, yeah.
Like, there's no finish line to you collecting stories. There's no finish line to you collecting experiences.
Yeah.
The finish line is death.
Yeah.
And that is it.
Yeah.
And that is, like, apparently the science behind it is that is the way that we can lead happy lives, because we're actually part of the journey, not the end point.
Yeah, and I guess that's ultimately that dopamine grows as we get close to the finish line. Yeah. So what are the moments?
So what are we saying here? The closer we are to death, the happier we are?
Well, it wasn't what I was going to say. What I was going to say is that if you're living a goal with no finish line, so say you were someone who strives to have economic security for yourself and your family.
Yeah.
That's quite different to having...
this much money in my bank
1.7 million in the bank and a
Yeah.
house in Grey Lynn. Like, you know, like it's quite a different intention. But to feel those dopamine moments along the way, you need to have these moments where you feel like you're on track. So it might be, you know, I saved 20% of my income into long-term savings, 20% into short-term savings. You know, like there might be some behaviors that you set up in place to help you
Feel
align, and celebrate those. So, but then on the flip side, you know, when I can say now I set fuzzy goals and I'm really clear about it having intentionality, but there are still times where I will write myself a really rigorous plan, you know, and, you know, having torn all the cartilage in my hip and having to build strength in my leg, you know, I was like, I need a plan to get to the gym to make sure I do leg day because I hate leg day, but I need to do it. And now I actually really enjoy it. So it's that whole thing around any achievement doesn't come from, if we rely on motivation, we'll never get there. If we rely purely on intention, we won't get there. There's this piece around discipline that has to come into it. And so I do think there's points in time, certain types of goals, a bit of rigor and discipline can come in really helpful. And I know when I bought my first house when I lived in Brisbane, that didn't happen by accident. It came through effort because I had to make a choice to find a mortgage broker and, you know, go through all of those things. But before I did any of that, I had to be really certain that I wanted to buy a house. Yeah. And so I had to set that goal and then go through the process. So I think I like to believe that things will magically line up, and weirdly for me, they do at the moment.
I also think, like, things do line up when it is the purpose, when it is the fuzzy goal. It's the intention that you've set, that the discipline comes because you've got, and the motivation and the intention comes because it's something that's right. I think where a lot of the time people get really down on themselves or do the wrong thing or because they feel like they're doing the wrong thing, or they're setting themselves goals or intentions or purposes that aren't actually theirs. It's just part of hustle culture.
Agreed. It's the inauthentic. It's the should shit again.
Yeah, the should shit. And I think that's where, you know, if you don't want to buy a house, don't buy a house. If you want to buy a house, buy a house. Like, what you need will help you achieve that goal. It'll be easy to achieve it if it's not a should.
Yeah.
If it's a
choice. Yeah, totally. And I think, you know, I think earlier, I think I said that was the first piece, is right, is knowing yourself. Yeah. And if you're in a place where you're burnt out or you're busy or you're exhausted or you're dealing with life, you can't set goals from that place because it's like, it'll be like in the middle of a hurricane.
And you're more likely to fail and you'll just end up in a spiral. Like it'll
just reinforce negative beliefs about yourself.
Exactly. And it'll just get worse. So find the things that you truly want to do and you're truly passionate about. And yes, you will need discipline, you'll need motivation, you'll need intention, you need these things to achieve things in life. But there's a part of me that just truly believes that it'll be easier because you want it. Like it's something that is a want, not a should.
100%. And I think about like writing the book for Careering. I'm now at 70,000 words. I've nearly finished. And at no point have I ever felt like it's been hard work. Yeah. Like, I love writing it, and it's taken longer than I anticipated because, you know, life.
And it's been work.
It's been work.
But it doesn't feel hard.
No, and I've loved it. And whether it's any good, who knows? So I'm not talking about the quality. Yeah. I'm talking about the process. Like, it's actually been really enjoyable. Like, I feel compelled to do it. Like, it's almost like I'm drawn to do it.
Yeah, and that doesn't take away from the fact that you've slaved over it for hours. You've worked on it. You've put purpose. You've put intention into it. You've put effort into it. But it doesn't feel difficult. It doesn't feel wrong to you.
Yeah. So I agree. I think it's a magnetic pull. If you get clear on your vision, it's almost like, are you giving yourself enough space in your life to lean in and really hear what you truly want for yourself in terms of how you want to be, things you want to do, experiences you want to have? When you've got that ability to listen into yourself, then set some intentions or some fuzzy goals. Yeah. And then trust yourself. Because then on the flip side, I think about, starting a new business. There are environments where robust goal setting is critical. And if you're trying to align other people and move things forward in the same direction, if you're in a rowing boat.
And I get that. I understand that because you've made that choice. It's you're here for a purpose and a reason and everyone... All the conversations that we're having about good management, you have to do that. Otherwise, you people will feel lost.
Yes.
And you just won't end up with a good environment.
Yeah. So there's team-based goals.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You need to be more rigorous and disciplined.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that's really interesting, whether it is individual or team-based, and it is a Tony Robbins thing, and I really like it, whether you use a SMART goal technique or however, if you want to get into specific actions that need to be taken to achieve the goal, one of the tactics he recommends that I love is asking yourself, what could block me or stop me? Because often when people set goals, so we've connected to this vision, we're feeling really inspired, life feels good, and then we set a plan, and the plan feels great, and then reality hits, and this thing happens that becomes a real roadblock. When we don't see it coming, if we aren't truly committed to our goal, we'll just give up. Yet what he gets you to do is think through those things. And, the example is always, getting up at 6 a.m. to go to the gym. What could block me or stop me? It's -4 degrees in Christchurch like it was this morning.
And it's 6 a.m.
Yeah.
And it's the gym.
Yeah, so if you know that's going to block you or stop you, then it's almost like, okay, I give myself permission to not do that on the days where it's -4. And instead, I'll just go twice that week instead of 3 times that week. Whatever the variable needs to be. Like, I actually hate that I said the gym one, considering we talked about diet culture. But
but I think that's what I mean. Like, when we think goals, we often think that sort of stuff.
Yeah, we do. And it's so, I think I use that example because it's relatable.
Yeah. I think, like, for me, at the moment, I want to learn, like, maybe my fuzzy goal is I want to learn how to sew.
Mm-hmm.
And my big thing to stop me from getting there is that my sewing machine is packaged up and put in the cupboard. So maybe I just need to get the fucker out.
Yeah, right. But isn't it amazing how when you ask yourself that question, what could block me or stop me, suddenly you're like, oh, actually, I could make this easier for myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Object permanence. Like, I need to be able to see it.
Yeah, I need to see it and feel a little bit of guilt.
Yeah. And it's sitting there. Yeah. Yeah, so what's the blockers, what's the stoppers?
Yeah, and that way when you hit those moments, you're not relying on your emotional state to overcome it, because then you're drawing on willpower and discipline, and you might be tired and you might be run down and you might have had a shit day when you're like, I can't be fuck sewing.
Yeah.
But you're like, I'll just do 5 minutes. And then you start, and then suddenly an hour's gone by. It's amazing. But if we rely on feeling motivated in the moment, no matter how compelling that goal is, our emotional state changes so much throughout a day that we're actually putting ourselves at risk. So if we anticipate that could be a barrier in advance and do the thing to make it visible, then we really are setting ourselves up for success. And then we make a choice. I actually don't want to today because I'm not feeling up to it. I actually just want to go for a walk with a friend instead of sewing, whatever. But you're making a conscious choice rather than feeling like I've got an excuse not to. Cool. So the wrap up for me is find some quiet space for you. Find and connect into some imaginings of what your future self could be feeling like, having and doing, and use that to create either some intentionality and fuzzy goals, or develop that further if that's your preference into some structured plans. But allow yourself some time to lean into some creative imagining, because ultimately what we're trying to do is make the impossible possible. And if you can't imagine it, how are you going to make it happen? So daydream, motherfuckers.
I love it.
Wrap up from you, Cows?
Oh, look, do what you need to, but my personal outtake is fuck hustle culture. And I'm pro-purpose, I'm pro-fuzzy goals, but, like, do not give me a fucking plan. I just don't care. I'll do what I want.
Don't tell me what to do.
Don't tell me what to do. And that's my outtake.
Nice. Cool. Well, my tweet of the week, this sounds like it's very self-indulgent, and I didn't write this, but I tweeted it, and when I tried to find the original source of it, I can't find it, so I'm actually the tweet of the week comes from me. But I love
that you're, like, referencing yourself.
Yeah, but I did not write this. I am not that clever. Let's be very clear. This is someone else's work. I've Googled the shit out of it. I don't know where it came from, but I love it so much. Stay unrealistic. You have to believe something different can happen now. Being realistic doesn't change anything. Being unrealistic does.
Great tweet, Melissa.
Thanks. Not my words. TikTok at us, gals. What do you got?
I have a TikTok from Sake River, and I'm just going to let him explain.
As some of you might know from my previous videos, I am an over 40 divorced dad who the TikTok algorithm has apparently decided is a woman, as a consequence of which I get a lot of videos on my For You page that are in one way or another about what women want. So, here is a non-exhaustive list of what women want according to my For You page. Pockets, swords, snacks, peace and quiet, floppy-haired skinny gamer boys with golden retriever energy, men with beards and tattoos, men to leave them alone, men to go to therapy, women, Taika Waititi, the entire cast of The Mummy Returns, and bodily autonomy. Let me know what I missed.
I mean, it's not wrong.
It's such a weird list because it's like, pockets, absolutely. Swords, where did that come from? I mean, I'm not going to say no, but I also love that it kind of was like for men to listen, for men to go to therapy, for men to go away, and then also like Taika Waititi.
Yeah, random.
It's great. I'm kind of just like, I love an algorithm. Loves to see what turns up. Anyway, that's my TikTok of the week.
Nice. Well, on that note, thank you again for listening in. Please do subscribe, rate, and like us on all the channels. We do release these episodes regularly, wherever you get your podcasts. And we do love question stories and topic ideas. So if there's anything that you've heard today or in previous episodes you'd like to hear more of,
or you just want like another topic where I get to do therapy.
or you want to come on the podcast
and we'll do therapy together.
Yeah, we can all therapize. Like, we're here for it. We're going to be doing a quad pod soon. So that's
watch this space.
It's going to be super fun with two really smart ladies from Central Otago. So that's going to be awesome. So we love hearing from you. Connect with us on all the channels. But until next time, get out there, back yourself, and unlearn the shit that holds you back and spend time imagining how great your life can be.